Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Doom Patrol Season 2, Episode 4. It's called Sex Patrol. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. In an effort to save Danny, the Danzians, as I think they were calling themselves.
Danizens.
They show up, and they want to help bring Danny back. They want to be there for Danny, and the idea becomes, okay, let's throw a party. Because that's how Danny thrives and expands and grows and gets their strength. So
Danny lives to party.
Seemingly so. So, and I you know what? I was, every time it came up with a really oomphy title card saying 4 hours to bedtime, 2 hours to bedtime, bedtime. Like every single time it did it, I laughed. It was funny. It was funny.
Yeah.
Treating bedtime as a dramatic moment in time just really is hilarious to me. So everyone's kind of involved to some extent. I mean, Cliff and Jane are a little bit separate at first. Jane's in the underground. We see a variety of other characters take control, which all because she's like, let's try to sell Hammerhead's spirit. Because actually, I laughed really hard because the Hammerhead at one point when Jane asks, "Oh, who's in control up there?" and it's like, "Oh, it's the painter." And it's like, the painter, I just don't think she's, leader material. And I laughed really hard when Hammerhead just shouted, "She can effing paint!"
Got one more talent than you've got.
That cracked me up. Of course, the big thing we need to talk about this episode, because I mean, obviously this is the setup. They're having the party, things are going on. The real plot really gets going when Rita, because Flex is there, and he's, doing some nice things for Dorothy. He's creating all the party decorations by flexing. He's doing his thing.
When he helps her to fly up, it's a really nice moment.
It's a sweet bit, yeah. And Rita sort of sees, and at first I was just like, is Rita just attracted to Flex? I mean, that's always possible. But she comes over and she's like, okay, I want to talk to you. And she's talking about, getting control of her powers. And she has that embarrassing moment with the glitter ball where she wants to put it up with her powers, just stretch up, and she can't do it.
Yeah, that was in the trailer for the season.
So she takes Flex to a bedroom and says, "Oh, you remember that thing you did, on Danny?" And he's like, "What, you mean no, not that thing. The thing before that, where everyone kind of, obviously one of the best scenes of season 1, of course, was everyone having the orgasm. It was delightful.
It was a great moment."
And she's like, "Well, I think if I need to free my mind, because that was his advice, you have to free your mind to use your powers." She's like, "Well, I think I need to free my mind. And the only time I've really felt free was during that moment. So I was wondering if you could do that again." So it's this very awkward thing where he's kind of like agreeing to it, but it feels a bit uncomfortable, but whatever. And she even she feels uncomfortable with sort of him staring in her direction, so she even sort of puts a dot in the wall and says, "No, this is where your nose goes. You stare this way." And there's this weird thing that happens as she's orgasming where it cuts to Nepal, and there's just this random guy, like kind of creepy looking, but he's sort of like meditating, and he's got like a telescope that comes up from the top of his head, and he senses this orgasm, and it disappears, right, as if he's been called towards it, and on its own it's like really like weird and out of context, like what's going on here? And then we get to the rest of the episode, which is the sex men
Yes.
show up, which obviously the name's a bit of a play in the X-Men, but it's actually more of a Ghostbusters-esque kind of operation.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that was H. John Benjamin was one of them.
Yes. And they come in and they say there's an eruption of extreme erotic, like paranormal activity going on, which we actually get sex ghosts.
Don't look at the sex ghosts.
Yes, and because Cliff does his "what the f" as he always does, but he does it in a sort of high pitch where he's like, "What the f." Like it's really different to his normal thing.
We should mention Cliff is on ecstasy at this point.
Yeah, the Chief's trying to make up for, well, everything, his whole life. So he offers him, because Cliff says he gets no release because he doesn't even sleep, right? Because he's a robot. And he's like, "Well, I could probably put something in your thingy tank or whatever," and just kind of. He's like, and he explains it in a scientific way. He's like, "I'm talking about ecstasy, Cliff." He's like, "What?" And it cuts to him just kind of, partying and being mad and doing his thing. And it would be kind of odd for me not to compare this to a certain episode of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, season 4, There's an episode called Where the Wild Things Are, where Riley and Buffy have so much sex that they awake a sex demon, and it's this kind of kooky episode. Admittedly, I'll say this is a better episode than that because this has the sex men.
And it doesn't have Riley.
It doesn't have Riley, which is a good first step. That said, though, one of my favourite spite lines of season 4 is in that episode, so it's not worthless. There's definitely things to be had in there. It's also
we agreed you were going to stop doing the Buffy referencing.
I agreed to no such thing. What no? So we get this. So if you thought the scene last season where they're all orgasming in the scene with the song playing, which obviously was weird but wonderful, this is even weirder. Where okay, so this ultimate sex demon is coming because you know what I mean? Not that, right? It's coming to the mansion for Rita because of the orgasming, right? As Cliff puts it later, we're not going to talk about the fact that Rita's G-spot almost ended the effing world, was how you phrased it later. And when they open the door to the room, and Flex is kind of stuck in the wall, he can't turn around. There's like a vortex at the end of the room where this demon is just floating, and just kind of like, and I've not even got to the weirdest part yet, but just so far, this is where we are. He's floating. And anyone who tries to get them, because the male of the sex men, there's the two sex busters, he tries to come in the room. He's like, I'm going to deal with this. He comes in with these like his proton pack essentially. It looks kind of cheap. It's like a cheap knockoff. Yeah, it's like a cheap knockoff of a proton pack. He comes in, but he only gets a few steps in and he starts orgasming. I'm like, oh my god! Anyone who enters the room is going to start having a violent orgasm. This is amazing. And at one point, Larry's like, "Hey, Cliff, you're the only one out of us who can't have an orgasm. You should go in and deal with this." And he's like, what? First of all, you've embarrassed me. Secondly, I'm high as shit. And thirdly, I ain't killing a baby. Because this reminds to the other weird thing is that halfway through this scene, the sex demon just casually gives birth to a baby. And apparently, if the baby audibly cries, that will be the end of the world.
Yes, it will kill every other child in the world if this baby cries. And it will become an adults-only world from then on.
Doom Patrol.
Yep. Yeah. Just one of my favorite small little bits regarding the Sex-Men is every time their name is mentioned, there's like this smooth sax little bit that's played. I loved it. Every time it was funny.
Yeah. It's the little soft like the porn sax, I suppose, if you want.
Like careless whisper sax.
Yeah. That was wonderful. Jane at one point, it's not Jane, it's the psychic one, who goes out to talk to like the third member who's in the truck, Cuddles, and basically reads his mind and talks about how Cuddles is the doll, there's the teddy bear or whatever you had, and also it's how you first masturbated. You were a bit of a late bloomer and you used this doll thing. So no, all that sort of thing, and obviously all the Jane stuff kind of culminates where it's actually Hammerhead who does go into the room, does get affected by the orgasm thing, but sort of fights through it anyway, and then shoves the baby back up.
Right back up.
Yeah, right back up where it came from. Where that is exactly is a good question, because this is a male-looking demon. But
look, Doom Patrol, don't question it.
Yeah, but she afterwards, Cliff's still kind of, a bit high, but he's sort of like, oh, Jane, or he doesn't even say Jane, he says Hammerhead, come on, we don't hug enough, and Hammerhead's like, no, and he's hugging her, and then halfway through the hug, she's like, all right, fine, Jane, you win, and it just finally lets Jane back on top.
And Jane goes, what the hell's going on here, Cliff?
This was delightful and weird, and this is just like, there's been this is definitely the biggest weird thing Doom Patrol's done this season, and there's obviously been hints of it up until now. Red Jack's pretty weird. There's stuff that's been very Doom Patrol in the emotion, but this is definitely the first time this season I felt the ultra weird side of Doom Patrol kind of come
felt
in.
Like it just ease you back in.
Yeah.
And then here you go. Oh, we're doing a Danny episode. Yeah, Danny episodes need to be weird.
Yeah, it's kind of, when you think of the weird stuff in Doom Patrol, you think of the Beard Eater, you think of the walking butts, you think of the donkey, the painting, get up the ass, all that stuff. This definitely goes onto that list as the sex demon with the baby and the room that you can't walk into without orgasming. This is all peak Doom Patrol shenanigans.
It's up there. Yeah.
And much like the last Danny episode, there was something of a musical number.
I think every Danny episode would not be complete without one.
Yeah, Dorothy gets to sing that song from Willy Wonka.
Yep.
Do you know the name of it?
The actual name?
Yeah, I was just curious if you knew the song, but fair enough.
It might just be called Imagination. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it is. So I kind of like this trend that every single time we have a Danny episode, that one of the main characters is going to sing a song. It's kind of an interesting little.
I can't wait till it's Cliff's turn.
Oh, that's going to be great. It'll be something stupid when it's Cliff. I'm willing to bet you.
Oh, absolutely.
I did like, there's a small moment with Larry where this random guy starts dancing with him, and he's kind of, because he's, first of all, Rita's getting him dancing, but then she goes off because she's distracted by Flex, and he kind of feels awkward, but then this guy starts like rubbing up against him from behind and says something like, oh, I bet you're sexy under those bandages or something like that, and he's like, actually, if I take them off, everyone in this room will die a horrible violent death.
They'll just melt, and the guy just kind of dances away.
Yeah. Oh, poor Larry.
Yeah.
And it's still getting to him, because later on when he's making the grilled cheese, as Americans call it, Cyborg's just sort of standing there waiting with his plate. He's like, dude, I've been standing for like 5 minutes. Get me my toast. So all that was really good. You know, Cyborg addresses that he's feeling conflicted about the woman from the last couple of episodes. Gets advice from the character's name, who I cannot remember. But of course, the Dorothy stuff in the episode is after the song, because that helps kind of recreate, because it recreates the ballroom that Danny had, right? It recreates that, so it's kind of working. And she's then told by Niles to go to bed, because that's the thing, you know what time it is, and it's a boom, bedtime. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
But we have the candlemaker whispering in her ear, saying that she should go back up and not bless. But once she does go back up into the party and she's sort of sneaking around, and Danny's kind of letting her away with it for a little bit, then the candlemaker says you don't want to help Danny because Danny's a prison. And ultimately the story of this is that she comes to realize that she was kind of a prisoner to an extent, or at least that's how the candlemaker sees it, and ultimately it's how Danny sees it, which is the interesting part here, I think. Yeah,
I think Danny feels some regret, because he's like, it's not that he wasn't her friend as well, because when she asked, talk to me as an adult, were you my friend or was I a prisoner? And he goes, I wish I could say you were just a friend. So that there is still a real friendship there as well. But he's just like, no, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, so he actually, they actually decide to become a vehicle, I think. Danny became like a wheel, like a tire at the end.
This is weirdly ringing some bells for me from that latest Gerard Way Doom Patrol comic.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, there was some stuff in a car, van in that feels vaguely familiar, that maybe that was Danny. I'm not, it's been a while since I read it. I kind of read it, over a year ago, and it's just kind of blurry. But it feels like that was a thing in there. So it's interesting to see them pulling from that comic as well, rather than just, it's been mostly Morrison stuff up to this point. Even, I mean, I am like 99% sure the X-Men is a Morrison creation.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident most of what we get, unless this show goes beyond like 5 seasons, that most of the show is probably going to be Morrison concepts, with the odd little other things sprinkled in. They'll either be original or from a later run. So, or even an earlier run, maybe. I don't know if it's like classic Doom Patrol stuff they may want to mix in there, but so very interesting. So everyone goes with, obviously, except our core characters, and Danny didn't want to any longer be a prison, so Niles is going to have to figure something out, maybe actually teach Dorothy how to control her powers, and to actually sort of let her understand why she was put in Danny in the first place, why she is so dangerous, why her making wishes, for example, is so dangerous, because that's the thing in the flashback at the start is no, you can never say that word, you can never wish. That is the rule. Yeah.
It's the one thing she can't do. And there's a lot of this stuff in this episode about Dorothy's age and her mental age as well as her physical, because how old is she? 11. How long have you been alive? It's like 103 years.
Yeah, but at the same time, her mental age is definitely not 103 years. Her mental age definitely does seem closer to what she says her age is, as opposed to anything else.
But she has moments.
Yeah. And I wonder if that is almost not letting her grow up, essentially, on Niles and Danny's part. And that's maybe part of why Danny feels guilty, is that she should be more developed and mature in all these things, but she's been basically coddled as a child for so long that she's not had that chance. So I think that's maybe another interesting thing for Niles to feel guilty about, is this season goes on something else that he can add to the redemption list.
It's definitely starting to play that with Niles as well already. The the bit with like the lipstick, for example, in this episode, where he's just not willing to see her as able to be older. I think is the route it's kind of taken.
Yeah. So, no, that stuff was really good. I mean, honestly, maybe my favorite of the season so far. And it's one of those things where, again, as it was starting, like the first maybe 15-20 minutes before it kind of, I think these Doom Patrol episodes have got this knack of this sort of swing where they kind of feel really low key, and maybe that's what the extra like 10 minutes gives them over like a network show, is that there's kind of a little bit more quiet setup in the first half, but then once it got going with the party and the Sex Men stuff, it really drove into high gear in terms of fun and what it was doing.
I kind of appreciate though, it gives it like enough to feel like this is a normal day, or as normal as it gets, in the Doom Patrol house. Like things are kind of, I mean, they're all right. We're just standard levels of weirdness, and then it can show you how weird it really gets. So it just gives you that palate cleanser almost at the start of every episode.
Yeah, I think maybe even that, like you say, is maybe a benefit to this show because Doom Patrol is full of so many weird concepts that giving it that sense of normalcy for long enough before the weird things kind of kick in.
Yeah, just so it's not weird thing to weird thing every episode. It's like, no. This is, they still try to have a normal life-ish in between these events.
Yeah, because there's almost this thing where, like, I feel like for a little while that, maybe this episode isn't going to be that weird. And then it becomes the weirdest.
It always gets weird.
Yeah, it becomes the weirdest by the end. So it's just an interesting little little facet of how they're telling their stories here. And obviously this episode focused more on Dorothy and of course Rita. We should talk about Rita because she has like a mental block when she's trying to like free her mind. It's kind of a weird thing to think about your mother having sex when you're in the middle of an orgasm, but that's kind of par for the course with this show, I suppose. But she essentially remembers that her mother, because we had stories before about Rita herself being put in positions where she had to like get parts and things like that, and the guilt she felt about other people being sort of put into that sort of situation. That was kind of one of the tough subjects that the show kind of dealt with in its first season. This was sort of extending that further to her mother was doing this for her to get parts as a child. That she was with this producer or whoever, and she witnessed her mother in this situation. And her mother, instead of like stopping and feeling embarrassed, kind of just shoos her away. It's like, no, go away. Like as she's on top of this guy.
And it's left Rita in a bad place by the end, kind of in terms of remembering this stuff. Because we have a moment earlier on with Dorothy, where the bit with the lipstick, she tells her that everyone's beautiful in their own way, making Dorothy feel good. And then at the end, Dorothy asks her again, "Oh, do you really think I'm beautiful?" And she kind of says the line her mother told her. She's like, "Oh, go focus on your other talents." I think it was.
Yeah, which is kind of a mean thing to say, especially.
It is. Yeah,
especially in this case where Dorothy has a specific difference in her appearance to everyone else that would make her feel insecure.
Which I don't think we've mentioned how good the prosthetics look, like consistently. Like it's really good work that they do. I dread to imagine how long it takes that poor girl to in the makeup trailer every day before shooting starts.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of laws in terms of how long you can make kids work for, and it varies state to state. Like some places, it's like a every other day thing. Some days it's just like, no, they can work every day, but they can't do as many hours as the adults. There's just strict laws against it. So I have to imagine that in the scheduling for this show, a lot of it is built around when they can have the young actress play, because she's in a lot of the big plots, but obviously there's a lot of even if she's the main focus for an episode, there's enough side plots with other characters that she's not involved in where they can sort of make up their shooting schedule sort of work, where they're shooting that stuff at different times and so on.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's a challenge nonetheless, though.
Yeah, but no, it is fascinating. I think so. Yeah, Rita's stuff here, like her kind of personal trauma and her history with abuse and this side of her character, that extending even to her mother and like witnessing that as a child before she herself went through it. There's almost kind of a almost an uplifting prospect here of her trying to make sure the world's a better place for Dorothy. Like the idea that it happened to her mother, she had to go through it herself. Like the idea of like her saying, no, the line stops here. It's not something that I'm letting someone else down the line kind of have to experience as well.
Yeah, and we had part of that in the last season of her, kind of, like you say, feeling guilty about when it happened to others.
Not that I suspect Dorothy herself's going to be in a situation like that this season, but just in the sense that I think there's kind of a, her heroic path, as it were, Rita as a character, like her kind of making a sort of stance where she won't let any of that kind of thing happen again.
I think part of it comes back to the Doom Patrol as a whole almost kind of adopting Dorothy as their daughter, right? That's what we were talking about a couple episodes ago. And Rita wanting to just make the world a better place for her. It goes along with her wanting to be a superhero as well. But maybe it'll actually develop less into her wanting to be a superhero, more wanting to deal with the real world problems.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of wonderful. We have that's pretty much everything, wasn't it?
We did Cyborg, we did Larry, we did Cliff.
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole shebang. No, really solid episode, and it's obviously the big thing we want to talk about first was all the weird stuff, all the sex demon stuff and the orgasms. But what's wonderful about Doom Patrol is that there's all these sort of more personal stories about characters getting over their past that are sort of buried within, and they don't necessarily always hit high notes, but they often do. And here, there's at least a few of them that we're all working.
It just manages to have heart amongst the weirdness. It's not weird just for the sake of being weird.
Yeah. So there you go. That is Doom Patrol season 2 episode 4. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe. Liking is important on YouTube. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that we're worth recommending out to other people, so please do that. You can support us with some monies if you want over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month, and you get some bonuses for your trouble, and you get to help keep all the content coming. Otherwise, guys, on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. But that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?